Okay, good morning, folks, and welcome to Swing Trading Today. This is Bob Desmond, and it is 6 a.m., the 3rd of June. I'm just getting a late start here and getting a feel for the markets. I saw they killed a 77-year-old police officer overnight, so the thuggery continues. Let's take a look at the E-minis first. This is literally my first view. And we're up about a half percentage point. And we're looking good. Let's take a look at... We'll go to currencies later. Man, everything's messed up here. Bonds. All right, so far this month, we have seen a tick up in yields. This month and week. And we've seen this trend for the past several weeks where yields will tick up in the front half of the week, and then in the back half of the week they get knocked down, especially on Fridays. So now you're beginning to see on this 4-hour chart bonds begin to rally, and that means that yields should come in a bit. We'll see by the end of the day, today being hump day. But we're definitely bottoming out here on bonds, at least for the short term. Let's continue on with equities. NASDAQ 100 up about 1/3 of a percentage point. You know, I guess I should have said this about the S&P 500, but I want to say it now as I'm seeing the same thing appear on the NASDAQ. We had a big pop up higher yesterday into the after-hours session, and we haven't made much headway since. I want to take a quick look at oil. Excuse me. You know, I was tempted in the after-hours session yesterday to take a look at the energy stocks. I mean, we went over on Market Wrap last night how, good morning, RL, Patrick, Roy. I'm not wearing glasses right now, if you're wondering why I am a little bit off this morning. I can't seem to locate them. So, good morning. And yes, smash that like button. That I can read. Patrick, didn't I sell? Yeah, I sold space yesterday morning. What was it? It had an 80 handle on it. You still holding that, Patrick? Top of the morning, RL. Yeah, I got out at 1680, closed at 1580. What are we doing this morning? I like that 1460 mark. They knocked down the shares about what, 9% yesterday, and they diluted the float by about 13% on 12.5 million shares. So I think that we could move down a little bit lower. I did read a little bit of the prospectus, and it sounds as if they have the ability to issue even more shares. But I think that's in payment to Credit Suisse for doing the offering. So I need to go back to the prospectus and take a closer look at it. But I think that the shares, assuming that the market holds up, they'll become attractive. Again, ideally at around that 14, I think it's 1460. That looked like it was attractive support. Let's pull back. Let's go validate that. Yeah, right around here, about that 1430 mark. $14.30 to $14.60. That would be very nice. Okay. All right, so we're good. Shares need to come to us, though. Let's go back to the pre-market. I want to check out UGAZ. Good morning, Chuck. NY, good morning. We are flat this morning. Actually, no, we're moving up on UGAZ. I like the daily chart. This is a potential trade today. Yang catching a bit of a bid today. That's good to see. Let's go to gold. Yeah, gold's having a tough time here. I will say this. We were worried about a break of the support line, and it occurred. We do have an inside bar here. This is a 4-hour chart. Will they try to rally it? Maybe. But if yields continue to move up higher, gold is going to have a rough time here until we see signs of inflation. I haven't taken a look at Bitcoin in a while. Wow. Hammered here. It just can't seem to hold that 10,000 mark. Copper. It's had a nice move. Will it pop though? Are you talking about what time frame are you looking at, Chuck? You looking at? Or not, was it Chuck that asked it? Oh, NY asked it. What time frame are you looking at on copper? As an investment, longer term, short term? And we'll go to that chart. We'll take a look. The Russell 2000. Excuse me. The Russell continues to outperform here. Up nearly a percentage point. Silver. Short term, I think you've probably seen your pop already. NY. We'll go back to it. Silver trying to catch a bid here. I think precious metals are going to come under a little bit more pressure. And then when they bottom out, I want to pounce like an animal and load up. As soon as we get through this deflationary pressure. VIX is down. Let's go back to copper really quick. All right. So the path of least resistance is clearly still up here. I think that you still have more room in the tank on copper. Let me see if I have an annotated version here. Let's bring up a weekly chart. Here's the problem for copper. Is that while we've had a heck of a run, we are right at, and to be fair, we are through resistance. The question then becomes, once you arrive at a level like this, where you are through one resistance level and smooching another, the question is, where to from here? Do you back off on a weekly basis and fail to hold this initial support level? Or do you close above this support level, pull back and retest next week, and then make another run at the 250 mark in an effort to break through? So in short, Were I looking to initiate a trade in copper, it wouldn't and couldn't be here. It's there's just way too much risk of a pullback. Now this is a weekly chart. Keep that in mind. 3 trading days left to go, and that's a lot of time, especially for a volatile commodity. Chuck, we'll take a look at Costco. If you're looking for a price target here short term, I would watch the 200 period moving average on a daily chart, and that's at 2.55 on the spot price. So just be careful if you're long or looking to initiate NY, okay? I think we've had our run here, and now the easy money's been made, and we have a lot of overhead supply above. Chuck, let's talk about Costco. JA, why are stocks going up? It's very simple, JA. I know it's hard to believe, but it's very, very simple, and it's Federal Reserve liquidity being pumped into the market. End of statement. I wish I had something more fancy to say to you. I wish that I could say that traders are looking through to brighter future beyond what we're looking at in terms of the pandemic and what appears to be a revolution in this country. But I don't think it's any more complicated than the Federal Reserve. All right, Chuck. I think that Costco is setting up very, very nicely here. We continue to retest support levels. Will there be a correction? There's no doubt in my mind that there will be a correction, JA. The question then becomes, what's the catalyst? And I would argue that the enemy of the Federal Reserve right now is inflation. And their back is going to be against the wall once we see inflation. Because their ability to do what they're doing to stimulate the market becomes a very heavy sword that they hit the consumer with. Because if they cut rates and you have inflation, well, all they're doing is adding fuel to the fire and causing more inflation by adding more liquidity to the markets. They're killing the dollar. They're killing buying power. So if you think that you have unrest in the streets now, this is nothing compared to when hyperinflation hits. So that's why I want to go back and say what I said earlier, that once we have a correction in the precious metal markets, I want to be all over precious metals and very heavily long. And why, Jets, how much of an effect do Robinhood traders have on the market in terms of percentage, in your opinion? Not much. Not much. I don't think that they have all that much of an effect. I think we're seeing higher volumes. Why? Because we have commissionless trading now. So I don't think that they have much of an effect net on the market. I think that they will on the way down, and you may be saying why does that make a difference? It's because, if they're net long the market and they're on margin. Well, when that sell-off comes, and it will come, then the drop is going to be made all the more magnified once they have forced liquidations of those Robinhood positions and whatever other brokerages out there that they use in these applications nowadays. Webull, I believe, is another one. So I hope I answered that question. Chuck, to get back to Costco, please keep the questions coming. I love it. All right, so Chuck, Costco, RSI still looking good, pulling back, no big deal. The breakout is nice. I think we're probably going to get a move here, probably today. As I'm coming back here really quick, I'm going to go to the pre-market activity. I'm noting that you're seeing some stability here on the VIX. And we talked about VIX the night before last and last night as well on Market Wrap. Remember that on a daily basis, we have a RSI, which is broken out on the VIX. So keep one eye on the VIX and its behavior. Let's see what Costco is doing in the pre-market. We're about flat. Let's do an alert here. So simply because we move towards the 309.40 mark doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to pull the trigger at that level. It's just an indicator of, okay, we're at a point where Costco is flirting with a breakout, and we'll want to watch and see whether or not we close above that mark on a 4-hour basis, maybe a 1-hour basis, and then begin to nibble on the shares. So Costco looking good, very, very tight consolidation. We still like it. So we will definitely keep an eye on it. The alert's set. Zoom going down. I went over this with one of our members last night. We were chatting back and forth. Zoom, listen, it's had a heck of a run here. And that doesn't mean that it's over by any stretch of the imagination. And it's even catching the bid this morning. So it took it on the chin on earnings, which were pretty good from what I understand. I haven't looked at their forward-looking guidance. I'm going to assume that it's pretty good, and what we saw last night was just simply profit-taking. I wouldn't worry about a big correction here. And in fact, we've gapped up this morning, and we are holding support. You bet, Chuck. I'll send out an alert. So I wish I had more on Zoom on another chart on a closing basis, but I don't. Let's use the. In fact, you know what? Let's do this. Let's see how far Zoom has come. Let's go over to our friends at TrendSpider. Yeah, I mean, we've come so far. I mean, what a beautiful rally here. I think that ultimately what we're going to do here is we're going to get a pullback that refreshes. And this goes, when I say this, this assumes that the market holds up. I think we may retest this 177.50 mark. And that would make for an attractive entry point. And there you go. I mean, we closed out the day yesterday flirting with the third standard deviation Bollinger Band. And I'm not going to be the least bit surprised to see the shares recover today and move a bit higher. Would I chase them here? No. Far too much risk, not enough reward. Patrick, there is no velocity of money. Correct. And a lot of people are confused as to why we're not seeing greater inflation because of all the money printing. And Patrick just nailed it on the head. There's no velocity of money. And if people are wondering what that means, is that there's no, we have a limited amount of transactions which are occurring because of the shutdown and the lack of confidence in the economy. But once we clear that hurdle and we see demand for goods and services begin to pick up yet again, well then, that velocity of money picks up, and that's when the ugly head of inflation rears its head. And keep in mind, production of goods have been down. So there's a limited amount of goods chasing too few. I should say there's a limited amount of goods being chased by consumers. I screwed that up. It's way too early. First cup of coffee. AUMN. There's your pullback. Yeah, be really careful here. We're really coming in now. Weekly chart. Still very extended here on a weekly basis. In short, keep an eye on yields. Big day yesterday, man. Are you long of these shares at current? I certainly wouldn't initiate a new trade here, and I would think about if you're long about possibly making some profits real, especially if yields continue to. Oh, that's right. Yeah. I'd be looking to make some profits real here. I would keep an eye on yields. If yields continue to press up higher, you should expect some pressure on these shares, and technically they're overbought. Remember, on a weekly basis, we're still above the third standard deviation Bollinger Band. In short, we're not supposed to be there. So technically overbought, Longer term, I think the shares are probably going to go higher longer term. But if yields, again, continue to press higher, you got to expect some short-term pressure until we see inflation. You bet, anyway. All right, Tsco, Tractor Supply. I remember I went over this a couple of weeks ago. It was a watch stock, and rightly so. It continued higher. So this is a weekly chart. I'm going to a monthly chart first. We'll go back to the weekly chart. Again, I want to get that higher level perspective. And it looks really, really good here. Because we broke out last month. This month, we're pulling back. We may flirt with the breakout point here at 119. Let's call it 120 and rising. So it may be, by the time we retest, maybe 121, 122 per share. But the shares are looking good here. On a monthly basis, stocks are moving up higher. Yeah, you still have room on this weekly chart to the upside to rally up and into 136 per share. Very, very nice chart. Daily chart. A nice day yesterday. Here's your upper band of resistance here. I don't know if you have transpired at all, but if you do, make sure you have your daily trend line on and just watch this upper band of resistance if you're looking for a place to book profits, because if we rally up and into it, in all probability, we're going to get a pullback. So I think there's more upside potential here for Tractor Supply, assuming that the market continues higher. Will RH pull back? Restoration Hardware. Yeah, the easy answer is yeah. Well, eventually you're going to get a pullback here, but that's not the answer you're looking for. I think in the short term, these shares are very, very bullish. Are you looking for a long entry point here? Kevin, I was looking at TZA yesterday. Maybe, but we need to see some sort of a volatility spike first. Okay, Pat. We're going to go over you want to pull back. And I'm going to assume you want to pull back for a long entry and not a short. This is not a stock you want to short. So we'll take it from the perspective of you're looking for a long entry point. And from that perspective, I would look for a pullback to around 240 per share, because yesterday we broke out above resistance where there's a very good chance that we continue higher here. But if you're looking for a long entry point, right at that 240 mark, and that would be a good retest of support, assuming that we close there and holds, and look to get long at that level. All right, let's go over, I'm running out of time here. We'll do Boeing for Patrick, and for blockchain, we'll go over the banks for blockchain. Hey, blockchain, how you doing, man? Okay. So Boeing is already up 5% on the month, and it's still, relative to much of the market, it has not seen the recovery that many stocks have. We do not have, let's just validate this first, 156.70. Yeah, we do not have a new monthly high yet. Let's drill down to a weekly chart. Last week we were unable to close above resistance at around the 150 mark. We're now firmly above it yet again this week. Volume is rolling in nicely. I think there's a good chance. And again, I keep saying, assuming that the market holds up, because I have my concerns about the market. I think we're seeing a little bit more of the jitters in the market than what meets the eye. So, assuming that the market holds up, I think the shares are looking good longer term. We're going to have resistance at the 160 mark immediately after. I think that we're going to shoot right up to 173.66, and that was resistance back here in February of 17. You looking for an entry? Okay. Pat, I think if we pull back to 148, that's nice support. Even to 150, I mean, would be a nice place to open up a position, because you could set a stop right below. Because if we close out the week back down below 150, I don't know whether or not you'd want to be long anyway. So that's the price point I'd be looking at. Now, if you're okay with buying strength, then I'd be looking for a breakout to a new daily high and a close above 150. Let's call it 156 per share, because right now you're in a wedge formation. All right. Here, Pat, you have Trend Spider, so you may want to pop that in. All right. I'm going to do one more. We'll do the banks. And the reason why I'm picking the banks as the last one is because in a rising environment for yields, let's bring up the weekly chart of yields. Now, keep in mind that the reason why I'm bringing up yields to talk about the banks is because NIM, net interest margin. That's how many banks, make a good amount of their profits on the profit margins on loans, especially the regional banks, because they don't really have trading operations and they don't do M&A. So these companies want higher yields. And so far this week, they're getting it. So this is the 10-year yield weekly basis. Now you can see that we've had a rally for the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the 6th week in a row where you've had yields attempting to rally only to get rejected. So this is the tug of war that's going on between the bond vigilantes and the Federal Reserve. And at the end of each week, the Federal Reserve is the clear victor. Now, what's worthy of pointing out is that we have finally broken out of this triangle formation. And the question is, at some point in time, does the Federal Reserve lose control of longer-term yields? If they do, that means the banks will rally. Now, with that in mind, and knowing that you're going into the day wanting to watch yields, if they move up higher, then we take a look at the banks, and we'll start from a high level. And we're looking at the banks. We have an individual name in mind, but I need to see yields continue higher and not get beaten over the head by Friday afternoon. All right, so on a monthly basis, no new monthly high yet. We're up on the month. Weekly basis, we have a weekly breakout. We've recaptured a support level at current. We still have 3 trading days left to go. Do we close above this mark? We don't know yet. All right, it's not Friday afternoon. This time last week, you could have looked at this chart and said, wow, we're breaking out on a weekly basis by Friday afternoon. You're absolutely, you're in tears if you bought up here on a breakout, because now by Friday's close, you're trading back down below a resistance level. So we're back above it now. We want to not hope when we should fear. So therefore, we're not going to buy the shares based upon weekly support being recaptured. We have rising Stokes, and they are beginning to break out on a weekly basis. But again, the week is not over. Daily chart. Pretty much a doji formation yesterday. So I would wait here. I don't see a compelling reason yet to go buying the banks. Four-hour chart. All right. If we get a breakout here on a 4-hour basis, I'm probably not going to buy the XLF. I'll probably buy either the leveraged ETF or I'll be frank, I'll be looking at Goldman Sachs. Keep this active for the week. All right. Bob, do you find the volume profile very effective? Meaning overlaying the volume bars relative to the price, how I have it laid out here? Or volume on a daily or weekly basis? So that's my take on the banks. While I'm waiting for an answer, I'll go over KO for Trent. Coca-Cola. I haven't gone over this one in a long time. I find volume effective on all around. I find it effective. I'm really adopting this new this new methodology of using volume by price, VWAP. I like it. It helps me, and you really see how effective it is once you get through to new all-time highs, and how the shares just rip higher once there's no volume above. I mean, it's really just incredible. So yeah, I use volume all around. It's very important. As I'm staring at this chart here of Coca-Cola on a 4-hour basis, I really like it. But let's not comment until we identify where we're at longer term on Coca-Cola. Here's the funny part. It's so strange. You know, on a 4-hour chart, it could look so great. All of a sudden, you flip to a monthly chart, and you're like, egads. All right, so I'm very, very surprised to see Coca-Cola so weak. You know, it's bounced up, but man, it's really made no headway for a while. No new monthly high for the past 4 months. So 47.54 is clear resistance above. And there's that resistance level. You're right there. I think that we'll probably get through it. But again, it's definitely going to trade with the market. I like the setup here, but I need to see a close above resistance at 47.50. Then we'll probably rally up to $50 a share, and then you have more resistance above. There's a ton of resistance above. Back to that monthly chart to illustrate. I mean, this is formidable. Now, going back to that 4-hour chart for a moment, this is why I think it's going to pop up higher. We're in ascending wedge formation. We broke down below this lower band of support yesterday, but then we reversed right into the close to close up. So I'd be looking for a breakout again above that 47.50 level. Not to belabor this. It's an interesting chart. I worry about the longer term resistance above, but short term, I think that a close above 47.50 could be bought. Bob, watch copper futures for top and market. Copper is the economy. Well, you keep in mind that if you see a lot of rotation out of China, keep in mind you have countries like Japan right now which are financing companies to leave China. If you see a lot of movement out of China, which I can't believe is not going to happen. I mean, the Chinese have made the ultimate screw up tactically that I've ever seen in my life. The build out of infrastructure that's going to be required in India, China, Malaysia, even here in the United States, is going to be huge, massive, and I think that could create an opportunity for those who want to be long of copper. So I wouldn't look for the U.S. market to fuel copper growth. I would look for it may, for all I know, but I would look for other emerging markets to help fuel copper prices as they build out their infrastructure. And with that, folks, I'm going to say everybody have a profitable trading day, and I'll talk to you soon. Be well.